Welcome to the Relationships Inside Out podcast with Doctors Gregory Siebert and Kimberly Murray, licensed marriage and family therapists. Join them on this journey as they explore the ins and outs of relationships.
Well, welcome to Relationships Inside Out, where today we're going to talk about how to keep that spark alive post Valentine's Day.
So Valentine's Day tends to give couples this boost of like, we're going on a date, maybe. We're going to maybe have sex. We're going to get each other a treat. And for some couples, it happens. And some couples, they feel real let down come February 15th.
The issue for me is, why is this the only date or one of the few dates that spark a, I guess, initiative in prioritizing the relationship?
One word, Hallmark. That is the only reason, Greg. It is a moneymaker. And we need more than one day to foster the spark in our relationship.
It's fine if Valentine's Day is one of those days, but there have to be more days.
Oh, yeah.
And matter of fact, the whole point of bringing the spark back, if we were to put an umbrella over it, and we'll go into more detail, is prioritize the relationship.
Yeah.
Just prioritize it. Make it a priority.
Put effort in. I often ask couples, tell me your top 5 priorities. Put them in order for me. And they'll always put like my marriage at the top. And then we talk about it some more of like, what does that actually look like? And then I say, what are your actual priorities? And it goes like
based on your actions,
work, phone, like,
kids. Yeah.
Marriage isn't even on there. It gets kind of shirked to the back anytime life gets hard, right? Our self-care goes back.
Yeah.
And the relationship goes back.
And, everyone's heard of the honeymoon phase. So early in the relationship, it's exciting. It's novel.
Mm-hmm.
We spend more energy prioritizing it. But then longer in a relationship, that's going to inevitably decline. External demands like work and other stressors will kind of get in the way.
Things get mundane, right? When you first start dating, sex is exciting. It's new. It's a new body to explore.
But then that body becomes nothing new. The jokes your partner makes are not as funny.
No.
There's a lot. And then when you have more time in a relationship, there's more opportunity for negative experiences, like conflict potentially. So there's a lot of things kind of going against these positive experiences, new. And the problem being is a lot of people use that honeymoon phase as a barometer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not realistic, right?
Often hear couples say, I just want to get back to where we were.
When we first met,
before kids, whatever the benchmark.
Good serial date.
You're never going to get back there. That is the bottom line of this. You can use some of the techniques that you did to connect back then, but if you were expecting to return to that, what is more lustful stage, ain't gonna happen, folks.
And let's be real. I mean, there's a lot of energy spent in that first part of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we sacrificed some friendships for that new relationship.
Yeah, because the dopamine hit is high, so it's worth it.
It's not a sustainable homeostasis or baseline, because then work demands come in, other stressors come in with family. We start picking up on other, the quirks of each other.
We gain weight. We get bitchy, right? We do the things that all of a sudden our partner's like, oh, you're not the girl I met in the bar.
Yeah. I mean, first impressions last 2 to 4 years.
Man.
That's a long time.
Chris and I have been together for 18 years. Man, that first impression. It's tough. It's tough to keep the relationship feeling alive, to help it feel good and important when you've been together for a while.
And the expectation that it should just be that way because it was before, is not realistic. This takes effort. Relationships take effort.
A lot of it.
Keeping the spark alive takes effort. Those little like texts, I love you, probably have less meaning over time. Like, what can we do different? We have to shake it up. A lot of it that I experience with couples is it's just they get in this routine, this mundane routine. Even if they do have time for each other, they come home, they sit down and watch Netflix together. Is that connecting?
On separate corners of the couch with their phones in front of them.
With their phones in front of them. That's not connecting.
Not at all.
And you see this with kids too. And granted, depending on the developmental stage, parents are like, we have the kids, they take up so much time. You can find an hour to play a card game, an hour to do something.
You can find 2 minutes, sneak away to the bathroom and make out for 2 minutes.
Something exciting.
Like, it doesn't have to be huge, or, hey, we're going to go get a drink from the garage. We'll be right back. Grab each other's butt.
Yeah. What about earlier in the relationship when you snuck out the window of your parents' house? Like the sacrifice that you made.
Did that, Greg.
Jumping 2 floors, almost breaking an ankle potentially, and that's okay, but you can't make out for 2 minutes when the kid's napping or something, right? I mean, the sacrifices we make earlier on compared to the effort we make now is just baffling. And
It's crazy.
couples are like, oh, that's hard. I don't know if we can do that. Like, we just don't have time. Okay, well, if you don't have time and that doesn't want to be a priority, then I don't expect to get that spark back alive.
So let's talk about some signs that your relationship might be lacking in spark.
Criticism.
Contempt.
Contempt.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when we typically view our partners in a negative light.
Yeah.
So when we, as Gottman would call, negative sentiment, if they do something or make a mistake, oh God, they always do this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're just lazy.
They never do the dishes.
Yeah, just that.
Rather than, hey, I wonder what's going on for my partner that he wasn't able to get to the dishes today.
Yeah.
Totally different sentence.
Yeah.
Empathy. So I tell couples that come in and they are fighting at each other's throats and they say, we're screwed, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually glad you're fighting because it means you give a shit.
Just not effectively.
Yes, we're going to work on the fight. But when couples come in and they've stopped fighting, they've stopped talking.
Oh yeah, that one.
That's when it's really rough.
That's
so
like
if
out of the airplane, no parachute.
Yeah. If you just feel like your roommates, your ships in the night, that's a sign we've lost the spark. It's a big one.
There's this couple, they say that they have hallway sex. I'm like, what's that? They just give each other, or when they walk by each other in the hallway and say, fuck you. That's probably a sign that's got, and one thing that's interesting, and I think this is a very prevalent symptom that couples come into therapy with, is intimacy's gone. I'm just not attracted to my partner. And then you dig deeper and you're like, well, your processes or how you interact and engage and not prioritizing each other, there's resentment there. It doesn't feel safe. If you don't feel safe, it's hard to be vulnerable. And guess what is a vulnerable kind of a feeling or emotion, right? Is love and that connection, or even wanting to be intimate. Why would I be intimate if I don't feel safe?
And with intimacy, it's sex, but it's also holding their hand. It's saying, I love you, and actually meaning it, not just like the passive, like, love you.
I have a ton of male partners that would disagree.
Golly Molly.
You're right. I mean, intimacy is more than that, but a lot of people conceptualize it's
true.
Sex.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it's also having deep conversations. So relationships that lose the spark, we're keeping it real surface level. We're keeping it about logistics, about the kids. We're not talking about our dreams, our hopes, our fears, our goals, the things that get deeper, even politics, religion. I'm not having those conversations with my partner. I'm having them with my best friends. That's a sign we're losing it.
Yeah. If you don't want to go home, you're not looking forward to going home. You're continually fighting. You're not looking forward to.
They're not your safe space. If you're in a hard moment and they're not one of the first people you think of, time to respark.
Yeah. And in our context, we're talking about emotional safety.
Yes.
So do you feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with your partner? And by vulnerable, that means I can make a mistake or I can express well, what some would call like a weakness, right? If you feel that way, of like a weakness of being sad or whatever that looks like. And you don't feel being judged. You don't have any, or you don't fear being judged. You don't fear being left in that sense. That's a good sign. But if you don't have that emotional kind of safety, that's a potential sign that spark is gone. And the thing too is, you can also see potentially more periphery, is our parenting goes down, our quality goes down. And we see with the relationships, if those are solid and they can be a unified front, parenting is
we're not
effective.
a team anymore. We're undermining each other. If I'm neck biting about my husband to my child, that's a sign we got problems.
Well, and it causes stress. And if you have stress in the relationship, you have stress as an individual. That taxes your capacity. And if you don't have capacity, what are you gonna do with a screaming kid?
Oof. Another sign might be letting yourself go. The longer we are in a relationship, the more we take for granted our partner and that they're just going to stay, that I'm good enough just the way I am, right? And letting yourself go doesn't just mean like not working out or eating well, but also not taking care of your mental health, not working on holding and setting boundaries with the people around you, allowing yourself to be cruel in your tongue towards your partner. Those pieces are really important to maintain in order to keep that sanctity that we like to see in the relationships.
And I will say a lot of the symptoms, or I guess signs that we just listed, just if some of those exist doesn't mean that spark is gone. A lot of us are still critical with our partners. and we still have a spark. I mean, that part of being human is more when that's more prevalent than
it's the predominant space. And I want to say this too, as we're talking about like signs and whatnot, just because if you're sitting there and saying like, oh shit, we've got every single one of them, you're not screwed, right? Couples can come back from this. It just takes work, and both partners have to commit to that work. It can't be one-sided. That's the other piece. If I am the only one investing, it's going to be really hard to rekindle that. Maybe your partner buys in after a little bit. Sometimes it takes a person to lead and then get buy-in. But if your partner is still not buying in and you guys are ships in the night, not talking, not going to bed together, not doing anything together, that's a really difficult place to be.
And at the same time, that can breed resentment.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what we just talked about, another sign. And this is where one of the things in terms of helping the spark is what you really love is the make room for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And healing.
It's a huge one. Chris and I, my husband and I, have been together for 18 years. He's pissed me off more than a time or two.
No.
Maybe I've made a mistake, maybe or two. And it's important that I'm not sitting there with a ledger of back in 2009, I have got to let shit go.
Oh, I should burn mine then.
Do what?
I should burn my ledger.
Oh gosh, it's bad. Right? If you find yourself saying like, remember that one thing you did? Okay, that's a sign, right? That's a sign that we aren't letting things go. Now we're keeping score. I can't both keep score of how my husband's a piece of shit and feel connected to him and loving towards him and honor him. They cannot coexist.
And part of that is reminding yourself with intention of the good things that happen. It's much easier for our brain to focus on the negative and the things that cause potential
survival instinct,
threat or danger, which is my partner being a piece of shit. With intention, trying to have balance in that perspective of look what they took over from me when I was bedridden because I was sick.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. I mean, it might take a lot.
Thanks for washing a bottle. Yeah. Thank you for giving our daughter a hand as she went up the stairs.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying good morning to me. It can be small things. It doesn't have to be, thank you for planning me a helicopter date like on The Bachelor, right? It can be small things. And if I can focus on gratitude, and this caveat, the brain cannot both focus on gratitude and pain at the same time, right? The brain, when we start to lean towards gratitude, the brain actually feels soothed. It helps to reduce our anxiety. It helps to remove some of the sting of the pain, the wound, whatever it might be. So really incorporating that gratitude. And if that gratitude is gone, that's a sign that we need a little bit of resparking in the marriage.
Yeah. And it elicits
relationship.
And it elicits compassion too.
Oh yeah.
When you have, and that's what's needed to lean in, turn toward, and make effort. Because those are some of the things that dissipate over time. Is I have less compassion for my partner because of all the times that they were a piece of shit, right?
It's such an asshole.
And so one way, by having more balance in our perspective and being intentional about all the things that went well, I've had couples make lists of why their partners, they really have made those lists. And so you have them do the opposite. But as you know, as Gottman talks about that ratio of 5 to 1, it's like, no, you need to have 5 times more of these positives and write down why you're still with this person.
I want to punctuate that. Folks, as you are listening, I want you to think of 5 positive things for every 1 negative thing for your partner. Can you do that? So if you've got like 4 things you're pissed off about your partner right now, you got to do 20 positives. Can you do that?
I'm impressed with your math. I was like, wait, what is that?
I double checked my brain on that.
Yeah.
It's so important and really challenging.
And so we're kind of getting into the conversation of what to do to help increase the spark. And I think that's foundational. The make room for forgiveness, even starting with gratitude, learning to heal some of those past injuries, whether that means go to therapy to kind of work through that, either individual or as a couple. There's some research about praying for your partner, if that's something that you do. That's found to help kind of improve some of the positive sentiment, if you will.
Smiling. Smile at your partner. We think of this as such a small thing, but research shows that when we smile, it's contagious, just like a yawn might be, right?
Emotional contagion, yeah.
And if I can smile at my partner, even if inside I'm like, this fucking asshole, but I give him a genuine smile, he's more likely to soften and to be warm to me.
You mean don't roll your eyes or look away?
Tempting. Really tempting. And it's hard. There are days when it's hard. But I tell couples, every day you are sharing highs, lows, needs, and appreciations. That last piece is super important. I don't care how bad of a day you've had as a couple, you can find things you appreciate about your partner.
I think about it like work. A lot of people don't get up and are like, I'm going to work and I love this. It's a drag. And guess what? This is going to be too. And that's okay. Why isn't that a priority? Why are you able to go to work and, oh, that pays the bills? Well, guess what? This pays the relationship. This puts it in the relationship bank by getting up and making sure that you're, working on the relationship. It's so interesting that we don't think about it that way. It's secondary.
Because it's non-measurable. But then I tell couples, like I had a married couple, and if people haven't gathered yet, I'm a pretty direct human, including with my clients. And so I had a couple who they talked about the cost essentially of giving to the marriage. And I said, okay, how about you break down the cost of divorce, of getting a lawyer, of figuring out custody for your children, the cost of dating again, of both you buying a house.
Emotional cost.
It is so expensive to end a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
If you are that numbers person, cool. That's totally fine. But then actually lay out what it'll cost if you don't fix this.
Another one that's more peripheral that you see in the research, but a lot of people don't connect is the work suffers. So measure your work productivity. So every time we have fights, and granted, nothing's 100% correlation.
Sure.
But if you're not doing well in your relationship, your work is probably not doing well.
And your kids aren't. Guess what? You're going to hire a tutor now because they're struggling because you're struggling.
Yeah.
It's insane. And our physical health gets worse. We see that relationships that are declining, we see increased risk to cardiovascular health. We see increased obesity, all kinds of health factors. You're going to pay for those.
So let's talk about the fun stuff.
Okay.
Things that you can do to build your spark. And I like couples who are creative. I got a couple who literally build a fort in their house. They have popcorn and they watch movies or play a video game or something like that. They have someone watching their kids.
I was going to say my tiny terrace would wreck that.
So they have someone watching their kids. But that's the thing is if you have that resource, that's great to tap into. You deserve a night away from your kids.
I love.
And having fun and play. This goes back to an episode we had talked about play. Find ways to play.
Go back to that childlike self. I picture adults as just like gigantic children.
Yeah. And that effort that you took to get out of bed to drag your ass to work, take that effort to make something creative for your relationship. Even if it doesn't feel good now, doing it feels good. A lot of people wait for like the motivation. I'll do it when I feel that way. No, you got to do it first and then that feeling can come.
Motivation is secondary, folks. Another soapbox.
So we got forts.
We got forts. Sparking that sex life. This is a big one. I talk to couples about, say couples come in and they say like, we barely have sex anymore. Okay, fine. What are we doing about it? Do you guys incorporate different toys? No. Why would we do that? I'm afraid it's going to hurt my partner's feelings. No. Talk about it. See what we can incorporate. If it's toys, if it's lingerie, positions, places in the house, mix it up. Think about when you were teenagers, right? Think about when you first started dating. You had sex anywhere, right? People had sex in their cars. You might have sex at the bar.
Jesus, wait, what? The bar?
Not that I ever did, Greg. Not that I ever did.
Elevators.
Oh, whatever. But we got creative, right? We had fun. It was spontaneous. It was lustful. Bring that back in.
Wait, you mean the scheduled sex times are
Sunday at 10 a.m. is our sex
and
time.
It must last 30 seconds. Any more, we're in trouble.
But bring it in. Women's health is a huge passion of mine, and that includes sexual health.
Yeah.
The idea that women can have an orgasm from sex alone, from penetrative sex alone, is a total farce.
Yeah.
We know that only about 5% of women can have an orgasm from vaginal penetration.
Yeah.
The other 95% need things like clitoral stimulation, need nipple stimulation, some sort of other play in what are erotic zones. So erotic zones are places like your clitoris, behind your knees, the nape of your elbow. They're all over the body.
Sensitivity.
Think about that. If often I hear women say like, I just lay down and get it over with.
Oh my God.
Don't dead fish it, folks. Terrible. Enjoy it. Bring in the things you need to have arousal, to have an orgasm, to feel
Yeah.
connected.
And to get there, maybe you go to couples therapy to figure out how to talk about that safely. To
Yeah.
maybe work on narratives that are barriers to bringing in toys or role playing. I
Mhm.
know, in particular, in heterosexual couples, a lot of men have insecurities bringing in toys. Am I not doing a good enough job? And they think that
Yeah.
they're the ones that need to make this
My
work.
wife must think I suck at sex, therefore she has to.
Well, yeah, and that can come up too when you see, and
Mhm.
we won't divulge into this too much, but you'll see, for example, well, you just roll over and I don't get anything from it. And then
Mhm. All the
that
time.
kind of exacerbates that narrative of I'm not doing an enough job. Like, let's bring in a toy. And it's like, well, it's not about that. It's the fact that literally the statistics around having an orgasm
Are
through.
practicalities to sex that
Yeah.
we cannot override biology. We cannot.
Yeah.
And we think of climax as it being a one peak and it's over. For some women, they don't just have one peak, they have multiple smaller climaxes.
Yeah.
Get to know your body, right? Maybe don't even start with sex. Maybe you just start with something like sensate focus.
I
I
love that.
encourage people to Google this if you don't know much about it. But the essential premise is that we sit facing each other, ideally knee to knee, and we're not talking, we're not distracted by anything, we're looking at each other. And we start fully closed, touching the non-erotic zones. So each other's arms,
Shoulders.
backs, right? And it gradually escalates to removal of some clothing and then to the erotic zones
Mhm.
without sex 30 minutes post.
Yeah.
So that this touch gets to just be touch, not now my
And-
partner's going to want
And the
sex.
goal is not sex. And a lot of times in
At
this
all.
activity, couples fail at it, which is a good thing because
Which
they
is
mean
a
they
good
have
thing.
sex. But when you take the focus off of that end goal and it's just understanding each other's
Mhm.
bodies, you're you're trying to be very in tune with how your partner's responding when you touch certain parts.
Yes.
Because you're trying to learn that everybody's different. And guess what?
Mhm.
What might happen 10 years ago might not be the same pleasurable
Absolutely.
zone or, way
Bodies
that it was.
change.
Bodies change, preferences change, and that's
Yes.
okay. Yeah, that's totally okay. But if you don't communicate it, so it goes back to this idea of maybe getting that spark back alive is investing in your relationship by going to therapy.
Yeah. Finding a therapist that can even talk through that. But seriously, Google Sensate Focus. If you guys, if your couple relationship is dry in terms of this area, this is a gentle way to lead back into physical intimacy without,
Mhm.
oh gosh, we haven't had sex in a year and now I have to jump back into it.
There's a lot of anxiety around it. Yeah.
It's a gentle lead in.
Yeah.
So that's one way to respark.
Role play.
Yeah.
You can do it very simple, and it just has to be like in bed in the moment you make it up. Or, some couples, they go out and they, like you see on TV,
Yeah.
they'll meet at a bar and pretend they're other people and rent a room for the night.
Pretend like it's a first date again.
Yeah, they might need that much separation from the home and
Yeah.
get into character to get that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm. So other ways to kind of respark the relationship. This often starts with a little bit of therapy. It doesn't have to, but starting to dig deeper in your conversations. Feels like we're surface. Maybe we don't have the skills to dig deeper without it turning into conflict.
Mhm.
Maybe we need some more like emotional safety around it, but digging deeper. Hey, love, what are your dreams? Where do you want us to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
What are our goals? What is the next trip? You know this about me. We travel a lot.
Hmm.
And we always have at least one more trip planned. So that when we get back from that vacation, you've still got something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Plan some trips. Plan a getaway. Plan, if you're at home, even a staycation in another bedroom of the house. Something to look forward to and something to mix it up.
Yeah. I already just know in a lot of heads and minds right now, there's a lot of excuses. But what if that would happen?
I don't have
It's
time.
very hard for childcare.
No time.
So those are, a little bit more effort, and it could be small things. It could be very small things, like the making out in the bathroom for a couple minutes, kissing for, I don't know, a couple minutes before work every day.
Grab your partner's butt while they're washing the dishes.
If they are, if they,
If that feels good for them. Right? But it can be while they're doing the dishes. Go up for 5 seconds, rub their shoulders and
Nerf
say,
gun fight.
I love you.
Nerf gun fight for 2 minutes.
Yes. Play tag.
Yeah.
Run around. Find the things
Tickle.
that don't fucking tickle ever, ever. That lends to divorce for some people. That would be my
Yeah.
relationship. Uh, find those little things that help to respark and
Mhm.
recharge. Right?
And it's also important to recognize that there might be differences in partners and
Yeah.
what they find connecting or spark. So when we make these things up, it's important to certain needs, but also plan for what your partner might need. So I got couples that one of them really, really, really loves playing board games together. The
Mhm.
other partner despises it. So
Oh,
what's the other one like doing, right? Being something more active or something.
but we do both.
So finding a balance,
Mhm.
and maybe they actually trade off every week.
Mhm. That's fun.
Yeah.
Do something new, right? If you're missing that novelty, do something new. Go to a paint class, go to a cooking class, go to a dance class. Who cares if you look like a dumbass dancing?
Yeah.
You are connecting and hopefully laughing and enjoying with your partner.
And next speaks to kind of this next point of find a joint hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of couples are getting into pickleball now, the ones that are able to do that. I've never done it. I
I've
don't
never
know
done
what,
it.
I
It's
don't
like
know
the
what the
fancy
fat,
sport right
I
now.
don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what the fat is, but there's couples that really enjoy that. And it's something that they look forward to together.
Mhm.
Unless they're competitive and just yelling at each other on the court, like you failed us.
Which totally happens.
So maybe, learn what's, if it's actually beneficial.
Safe activity.
Maybe they both like working as a team, going to escape rooms,
Mhm.
and they really like solving puzzles together, or they both like trivia night together. Finding a hobby that both can do. Maybe that's just swimming and going to the rec and swim together.
Mhm.
A lot, I don't know why. I don't know if this is a normal thing or this is just kind of my sample. I get a lot of couples who connect deeply in a hot tub.
Mhm.
They just sit in a hot tub and they talk and connect, and they don't talk about any problems in relationships. They just talk.
I think it's a relaxing atmosphere with the heat and such too.
Yeah,
And it brings a lot of us back to our younger days.
in the hot tub.
Well, at least for me.
Yeah.
Chris asked me to be his girlfriend in a hot tub.
Oh, okay.
Real story. And a message in a bottle. And his dad brought me out flowers.
Oh my God.
Circa 16 years old.
There's engagement stories less than that. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway,
So that's hard to keep spark alive when he starts with that. Maybe that's if you're new.
such a romantic when we met.
And now that's not true. So let's talk about keeping the spark alive. I hope he's listening to this episode.
Doing things like working out together. We know that working out increases endorphins and makes people feel really good.
Yeah.
Do those activities together. Have fun with it. Play with it. Right? Get up early in the morning. I know kids are a thing, sleep's a thing. Trust me, I'm in the thick of it with you. Every morning, my husband and I get up and work out together. It is one of the best things we do for our relationship because one, we're both taking care of our bodies. Two, we both feel good afterwards in our bodies. But three, we get to encourage each other. Like, you've got this. I know this is hard. Good job. Right? You get to have that positive moment, hopefully.
I'm laughing. I'm thinking about one partner being like, you're only on incline 3. Could you go any faster on that thing? You've been on that same speed
more than that.
You've been on the same speed for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't
don't
know.
be that partner.
Yeah, you're not going to burn all those calories you ate last night.
You had cake. Get it going.
Yeah, so don't do that.
Don't do that. But
well, maybe this speaks to humor as being a way to spark. Some couples love humor together, and
humor versus sarcasm. Sarcasm is a slippery slope.
if they like it and that's their jam, that's their, different
But
strokes.
knowing the line, right? Because I love me some sarcasm.
Yeah.
But is sarcasm like gently teasing my partner, or is it me trying to get a needle in and cloaking it as
Oh,
humor?
yeah. No, we're talking giving a hard time potentially. If that's so interesting, that's not my wife's thing. That's my thing. I feel like it's a Midwest culture, giving a hard time.
Believe that.
So yeah, that's not her thing. But if she gave me a hard time, I actually really enjoy it.
I didn't know that about her.
Yeah.
Fun facts. But finding whatever it is for you as a couple. So if it's thinking back to when we first met, what we enjoyed, great. You can reuse some of those things, but don't expect the same hit of endorphins, hit of dopamine, hit of lust that we got from those previous experiences.
Yeah, and I think shifting those expectations are a big one to help open the door for that spark, and recognizing that that was a lot of effort. That's not realistic. That's not a good homeostasis or baseline that we can sustain. But what can we do now that is different than just the monotony that we're stuck in with work and kids? And how do we shake it up? And just shaking it up. Make it like at a random, I like when it's a random night in the week.
Yeah.
Middle of the week to shake it up. So Wednesday night or Thursday night, just whatever you can do. Where can you sneak away?
Wait until the kids are asleep. Spend 15 minutes together.
You got a couple that play video games together when the kids go to
So
sleep.
fun.
Not just any video games, like Mario.
Yep. Chris and I love us.
Classic.
Mario. We played Spyro. Only
Yeah.
the cool kids will know that. You don't know that one, do you, Greg?
I'm not a cool kid.
Oh my gosh, Greg. Yes, finding those things. Now, here's the other piece. Some of you are sitting there saying, okay, well, I'm going to wait for my partner to do it. Stop waiting for your partner to do it. Stop it. You have to initiate. Now, if it's months of you just initiating, now it's time for couples therapy or figuring something out.
Yeah.
But don't always wait for your partner of, well, I don't want to say I love you if he's not going to say it. Well, I'm not going to hold his hand if he's not.
And if they have if they have trouble with effort and they finally do something, don't be like, that's what you come up with after all these months. I literally had that exact language. I've literally had that with a couple exact language. And it's like, okay, we need to encourage. This is called positive reinforcing. I appreciate that effort. That's great. And then you can pretend to like it and put that smile on we talked about earlier, even though inside you're like, this is done.
Find the gratitude, right? Or couples be like,
Forgiveness.
all you brought me was a card. How about thank you for the card?
Yeah. And
that was very thoughtful.
And we laugh a little bit about it. The unfortunate piece is that puts performance anxiety now on this process, and you're less likely to get effort from that partner again.
Because now they're shutting down.
And that
they
applies.
Tried, and then you shot them down. Now they're going to quit. They're not going to try again.
It applies to sex.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you start criticizing, it puts performance on it now. Instead of having an exploratory conversation of like, what's working for you, what's not. You know, I love, you talked earlier about the just connecting and having a conversation. You do the Gottman app. It's a free app. It's a card deck app on your phone. There's questions in there to build love maps. There's about intimacy. There's about new ideas of how to spark intimacy.
Open-ended questions about dreams and wants and just curiosity with one another.
And that's a great place to start and start having questions already there for you. You don't have to think up, but you can just begin talking about couples who go in the car. Some of them, I got this couple who goes on a car ride. They connect in the car ride. We've talked about this in previous episodes. And while they're in there, they use the card deck.
Love it.
While they're driving. Safely, of course.
It's the little steps. You don't want to do all the things all at once, just like any other routine you're trying to change. We don't want to jump into the deep end. You want to start in the kiddie end, right? And we're going to take 1 foot at a time. So start small with something that you think you and your partner could be successful at. Okay, we're successful. Great, we did a good job with that. Now let's go a little bit further. Start where there can be a win. If you go from not having sex for 2 years to let's hit the sack and I hope I have an orgasm, not going to go well, probably.
Probably not, no.
Because neither one of you probably feels safe or connected. We have to connect before sex, right? For some people, women. Okay, let's just
women
specify.
in particular,
For women.
Yeah.
Men, often it's a more physiological process. Women, it's a mental process. Connect first. Start with a handhold at night. Every night I'm going to hold my partner's hand for 5 minutes. Start there.
Yeah. And the orgasms tend to be more intense for when there's connection before. Yeah. And maybe before sex, you sit there in bed and you just talk and do like a stress reduction conversation.
Play, massage, touch.
Yeah,
you said tickle if people like tickle.
Yeah.
I personally makes me homicidal, so no tickling of any kind.
Should I assess you for that?
Oh my gosh. Chris knows, like every relationship has their limits, right? He knows, don't you ever tickle my feet because I don't like slightly get pissed off. I go into a full rage. I don't know what it is. I can't do tickle. I cannot.
Okay. So going back to the point, if you need therapy, that might be an area. I think that the overall message here is the relationship should be a priority. If you want to keep that spark alive, prioritize it and on a weekly basis.
Actual one, not I want my relationship to be a priority. Measure time.
Not a conceptual priority.
Measure effort.
Yeah. Actually action. And try to put the same effort that you do when you drag your ass out every morning going to work. The other thing is if needed, make room for that forgiveness and healing. And then be creative, be fun. I think it's exciting to think about how can we join, right? I think in a previous episode, we've talked about like a painting and passing. I talked about where a couple, they might have different schedules. So they just contribute to the same painting.
Love it.
Yeah. And at the end, they like name it together. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Right. It's these little things that add up. Okay. You know my soapbox on this. Whip out your phones. Look at your screen time report. If your screen time report is higher than the time you've given to your partner, you are officially prioritizing your phone.
And not given in partner of like giving criticism, but given time to prioritize
love,
and
connection,
connect.
quality. Yes. Resparking is hard. So this might be messy. It might be difficult. It might be, oh shit, that's not working. Oh gosh, are we doomed? Keep trying. If you find that it is too stuck, too difficult, reach for support. There are people, therapists that can help you move through this if you both are committed.
And if you only rely on Valentine's Day and other anniversary dates, probably not enough.
So you mean what? One anniversary plus Valentine's Day, maybe Christmas. 3 days isn't enough? No, no.
No.
Ah, shoot. Well, this has been Relationships Inside Out, where today we talked about resparking the relationship, whether you've been together for 2 months, 2 years, or 20 years. How do we notice when it's happening that our spark is dwindling, and how do we recover? As always, if you have any questions, topic suggestions, please feel free to email us at relationshipsinsideout@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
Thanks.